Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening for our session on what's new for the research, theory, and practice learners, otherwise RTAP learners, as well as the recognition of prior learning learners, and that's RPL. Today will basically be a short session as there's not much to actually cover. So I would suggest that you perhaps start sending through your questions via the comment section so that we can tackle those before the session ends. I am once again joined by my colleague Gareth Nash. Gareth, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Good evening, and Mandisa, always a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. All right, so this is basically a list of all the past and upcoming sessions, and you see that so far we've actually had a look at the 2021 prospectus, the 2021 portfolio, how to complete the POE, how to book and postpone the POE, the exams, how to upload your assignment. And then last week we looked at the paper versus the online exams. So today, once again, as I've already mentioned, we're looking at the revised POE for our RTAP learners, as well as the revised POE for our RPL learners. All right, so first things first, just like the normal POE, the RTAP and RPL learners will also have to complete the POE online on our Mackie platform. So they will also have access to Mackie, and there will be no hard copy submissions. And students must use Chrome when completing the POE. Please make sure that you do not make use of any other browser, otherwise Mackie will not be fully functional. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, let's move on to the RPL. So in terms of the RPL, there's test 1 and test 2. Basically, your 3 learning phases, just like the normal POE, basically. And the structure of the test and the assignments is exactly like the normal POE, but we're just gonna run you through the structure of the test. So test 1 and test 2 will be completed online. It will be auto-marked, which means that the results are available immediately on Mackie and you can actually go and view them. It will be in a quiz format, and there will be 2 attempts at each test, and that's obviously something new, but it's something that we've already announced during our past sessions. And only 1 attempt is compulsory. So if you do want to make use of the second attempt, you can. But I would suggest that you don't immediately use that attempt. Leave it for, if, for instance, you're having like power issues or internet issues during your first session, and then make use of your second session. The tests are timed 1 hour, and they need to be completed during this time frame. So if you get locked out or anything like that, you need to ensure that you immediately log back in, because you're not going to have, time will not stop if you locked out or you're disturbed or anything like that. And then moving on to the assignment 1 and 2. So as we've already announced during our past sessions, that assignment 1 and 2 will obviously now be completed online and will also be auto-marked, and results will be available immediately. But students will only have 1 attempt, and the assignments will be in a quiz-like format. Even though assignment 1 and 2 will not be timed, it still needs to be completed in 1 sitting. So you need to make sure that you are completing the assignment 1 and 2 in 1 sitting, even though they are not timed.
Okay. Mandisa, before we move on.
Yes.
So the tests here, the test 1, test 2, the assignment 1, assignment 2,
yes.
in the POE, these are exactly the same types of quizzes or tests and assignments that a fully fledged student would have to complete.
Yes, that's correct, Gareth.
Okay, so the question style will be the same, multiple choice quiz, true, false, all of those things that we have already covered.
Yes, they will be the same. So it's not like RPL will suddenly be more difficult or easier than a normal POE. So yes, the outcomes that are being assessed are the same, and the format of the assessment is the same because it speaks to the integrity of the exam, it speaks to fairness and the reliability of the exam as well. I think it's quite important that even though a normal student and an RPL learners are obviously two different learners, but the assessment needs to be quite uniform and quite fair.
Yeah.
All right. So once you're done with your assignment 1 and 2, which is obviously phase 2, learning phase 2, you will then move on to your assignment 3, just like a normal POE learner. So in terms of assignment 3 for RPL learners, this will obviously need to be downloaded, completed offline, and then uploaded onto Mackie as a single PDF document. So as you're going through Mackie, there will be instructions for how to upload the document, etc., etc. This is more of a brief because we have actually covered it in the previous sections, in the previous session, sorry. And when you log on, when you read the instructions on assignment 3, it will also tell you about size limits, etc., etc. So even though it's supposed to be a single PDF document, there's also a size limit to that single PDF document. So make sure that you check out the instructions regarding the upload. And it must be uploaded by the due date. Students will not have access to the evaluation, which I'll speak about just now because it's something new, but learners will not have access to the evaluation if you haven't completed your previous learning phases, which is learning phase 1 and 2, where you find your test 1, test 2, assignment 1, 2, and 3. So make sure that you actually complete these activities before you move on to the evaluation. The assignment 3 will obviously be marked manually, cannot be auto-marked because you take it offline, you upload it, and obviously the system cannot read that. It needs to be marked by an assessor. Please, please make sure that you do not leave the upload for last minute, because we've seen that students do experience issues when they're leaving it for last minute. Suddenly your printer will not scan, suddenly you have a power outage, etc., etc. So under those circumstances, we can't really accommodate you because you have weeks to actually complete and upload the POE. So do not leave it for the last few hours before the due date. Maybe try the day before. And once again, you'll be able to amend or re-upload your assignment once it's uploaded. So you can actually go and check if you've uploaded the right document, and if you haven't, you can go in and change that, provided that it's before the due date and provided that you haven't clicked on the next step, which is to submit the formative as well as the next steps. And that takes care of learning phases 1 to 3 for the RPL learner. Now let's move on to what is new.
Sorry, yes. Mandy, so I'm going to interject or interrupt slightly here. Just a reminder for everyone with assignment 3, because it is downloaded, printed off, completed by hand, okay, to use black pen and to write legibly.
Absolutely.
We said this several times. So just something people need to remember.
Absolutely, Karen. Thank you very much. All right. So the RPL evaluation is basically it's something new, and the evaluation will basically test the knowledge of the learner on the study material as well as the formatives that they would have completed already on Mackie. So you don't need to stress too much because the evaluation will be completely online. So unlike assignment 3, you don't need to download and upload that. It will be completed online, but it must be completed under test conditions. And just like test 1 and 2, there will be a time restriction of 1 hour for the evaluation. And you will only have 1 attempt. So it's not going to be 2 attempts for the evaluation. It's going to be 1 attempt only. So make sure that you actually make it count and that you study your learning material to ensure that you are deemed competent in this particular section of the POE. It will count towards your final mark. And remember that there is a practice questions activity at the beginning of every POE. So those very same practice questions are actually there to help you practice how to answer all types of questions. Remember, during our previous session, I said previously it was just there to help you practice for your tests, test 1 and test 2. But now that we have an RPL evaluation, we have online exams, and we also have assignment 1 and 2 online. We've added more question types to actually train you on how to answer questions for an RPL evaluation, as well as your online exams as well. So if, for instance, you've now gone past the practice questions section and you want to go back to it, you can actually do that and practice as many times as you can until you're comfortable enough to now go through and enter the RPL evaluation quiz. Remember to have a piece of paper, perhaps a pencil as well, available so that you can do your rough work. You can make use of a non-scientific calculator as well when you are completing your RPL evaluation. So once you've booked your exam, make sure that you immediately go and do your ID verification, but you can also do your ID verification even before that. So everything that is applicable to a normal POE will be applicable to all POEs, including the RPL learners. So RPL learners need to also make sure that they go and complete their ID verifications, etc., etc. Otherwise, you will not have access to the formative part of the POE. So the ID verification needs to happen on your student portal. So it does not happen on the Mackie platform. So make sure that you get the ID verification sorted as soon as possible so that you can enter your POE and read up on the RPL evaluation. There is information provided on the POE regarding the RPL evaluation. So in addition to what I am relaying to you right now, there's also information available on your RPL POE for you to actually go through and find out what this evaluation is all about.
Mandisa,
Yes.
It's a horrid question, but I'm sure it does occur to people.
Yeah.
What happens if I fail the assessments on my RPL application?
Well, if you are deemed not yet competent on the RPL, you will obviously then need to re-enter for the subject. And you will get to keep your POE just like the normal learners. You get to keep your POE, but obviously if you deem not yet competent, because the RPL does not have an examination, it will obviously be highly recommended that you just re-enter for the entire thing so that you can actually be deemed competent. So yes, you will most likely have to redo the entire POE for RPL so that you can also try and improve your marks and be deemed competent, because unlike a learner who get to make up for those lost marks on the exams, RPL learners do not get that opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty then. So that's that in terms of the RPL POE. We'll now look at RTAP. At RTAP. For RTAP, there's not really a lot of changes. The only change really is just the fact that we've added what we call the marking guideline or rubric for the RTAP learners, so that you know exactly what you are being assessed on. So the RTAP dissertation will obviously still need to be uploaded onto Mackie for marking, and that was already happening for the RTAP learners. So fortunately for them, it's not something new. It's not something that they now need to sort of get used to. So there are no hard copies that must be submitted to ICB or to the colleges for RTAP. So once again, just like the RTAP and the normal POE, once you've uploaded your dissertation, you can actually go back and edit that. And as I've already mentioned, there will be an RTAP exam criteria or rubric that you can use as a guidance so that you do best in your RTAP. I'm quite concerned with some of the queries that I've seen sort of coming through last year with regards to RTAP. Once again, students leaving the upload for last minute, for the last hour, and then something completely unexpected happens during the last hour, and suddenly they cannot upload. Remember that uploading would literally take you like 5 minutes, okay? 5-10 minute tops. So if you're not able to upload, it means that you really, really left it for the last minute. And unfortunately, we cannot really help you out on those situations. So that's why we keep pushing you to ensure that you upload your work before the due date. Now, depending on whichever day you have booked to submit your RTAP or your RPL, the upload will be due by 1 p.m. on that particular day. So it's not at midnight. It's actually at 1 p.m. on that particular day. But you will have instructions on your actual POE, which tells you exactly the time and date at which your dissertation is due for upload. So please ensure that you upload that on time. Remember, for RTAP, there's no other way for you to actually gain marks, because there's no tests, there's no assignments. All you do is upload your research work. So if you're not able to upload that immediately, you will be given, you'll be allocated a 0 grading, which means that you will need to redo the RTAP module. So please ensure that all your uploads are actually done by the due date.
Just a note there on the upload. We had an incident with a student who was due to submit her RTAP dissertation, and she was doing it so just before it was due, and there was a power failure, and her power did not come back on until the next day. Officially, she is late.
Yes.
And there are consequences and penalties with that. One of the other things with RTAP, and I know because it's I taught it for a while as well at a particular college, and of course with my own background in research, people often ask how long you need for it, and I'm going to say you need to give yourself 6 months. If you are going to research and write it properly, give yourself 6 months. The cool thing is you can register now for it and set your exam date for much later in the year. You do not have to necessarily choose the first exam date on the list. One of the things that we used to do with our students who were in that level and looking to complete the financial accounting diploma was to register them for RTAP at the very beginning of the year and book the exam for December. So we literally gave them an entire year, and then they did their other modules in between, so that they could be working on the dissertation constantly throughout the year, because there's almost no limit to the amount of research you can do, and a dissertation is a drafting process. So you write, and then you get somebody to have a look at it and give you feedback, and you go back and you edit, and so it goes backwards and forwards until you've actually honed it to something really good and specific, and that is what's going to get you that A.
Absolutely correct. I think it is indeed quite crucial to have that, review work over and over again. It's not a matter of putting this document together and then uploading it. You need to review it, you need to amend it, you need to improve it until it gets to that point where it can be accepted as competent. All right, and then one last thing with regards to the RTAP POE, if you have postponed your exam, you can make use of the same research paper for the new exam date. So you don't have to worry about now having to go and do another topic or anything along those lines. You can actually use the very same dissertation for the new postponed date. And I think that actually brings us to the end of the presentation, if I'm not mistaken. Alrighty. So please make sure that you join us again next week as we look at where to find results for both your assignments as well as your exams. Please also remember to like this video if you found it beneficial, and perhaps subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notified of any new uploads or get notifications if we have scheduled any sort of like new streams, new live streams or webinars and stuff like that. And we'll now have a look at your questions. I know that my team has been tackling some of them in the background, but do we have any that have been answered?
There is one question that has come through, and it came through a bit earlier. And Mandisa, if you will allow me, I would like to tackle this one.
Okay.
It is, the question that has come through is, can you use Firefox? Okay. And my response is, no, 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 no.
Absolutely not. You cannot.
For study material or textbooks for RTAP?
Sorry?
Is there special study material or textbooks for RTAP?
You will need to check on your POE what is recommended for that particular module, because it's obviously RTAP for financial accounting and then RTAP for like business management. So just check on your POE what is required, what learning material is required for each RTAP.
Yeah, generally because it's a research dissertation, there isn't necessarily a prescribed text or textbooks. Students need to go out and actually engage with journals and business articles and things like that to formulate their responses. So there may be a recommended reading list. I think the only thing that is in there or that comes with the POE is the teaching on how to do Harvard referencing.
Yep.
So yeah, and that is something that really is crucial. If your referencing is wrong, it is going to pull your marks down like you cannot believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Do we have any other questions?
Let's see. No other pressing questions that have come through. So yes.
Okay. Awesome then. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us once again. Hopefully, we will see you next week as we take you through where you can view your results for your exams as well as your assignments. Thank you very much then. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.
And remember, knowledge base and grow. Nothing else but grow.